Welcome to Global Village Show. We are honored to have today our MLA from Wildrose Medicine Hat, Mr. Drew Barnes, and our former mayor, three-time mayor of Brooks, Mr. Don Weisbeck. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. MLA?
Well, absolutely. I'm fortunate enough to have been elected MLA for Cypress-Medicine Hat April 23rd. Very grateful to have been given the chance. I've lived in Medicine Hat since 1974. I live in East Glen. I have 3 children, Matthew, Davis, and Blake. Blake is at Crescent Heights School. My wife, Frances, is a instructor, a school vice principal. I had been involved in business and real estate for 26 years. I retired from that 3 years ago. I had then, about a year after that, heard about the Wild Rose and Danielle Smith, liked the position of the party, liked the fiscal responsibility that the party put forward. Danielle Smith, as a leader, is very inspirational and has a lot of good ideas for Alberta. So approximately 18 months ago, I decided I'd seek the nomination for the Wild Rose and Cypress-Medicine Hat. Ran a fun and a good campaign, and fortunate enough now to be representing Cypress-Medicine Hat in the Alberta legislature.
Thank you very much. I think that's very clear. Don, I think most of our people, they know you very well. You have 2 main hats, so you want to give us a little bit brief of who Don is?
Well, Don, as you mentioned, Ahmed, I was Mayor Brooks for 3 terms, 9 years, from 1998 to 2007. I was the founding or first president of the Wild Rose Alliance Brooks or Strathmore Brooks constituency back in '09. Working with that party, I was involved with actually the Alberta Alliance before that, and before that the Reform Party federally, and after that the Conservative Party. So I've been had my fingers into politics for a long, long time, and still have it to some extent. Although I'm past president of our local constituency now, but I still attend the board meetings and still follow Danielle Smith and still follow politics. As you know, I write a column both in the Brooks and Medicine Hat papers once a week, and tends to be a little bit on the conservative side. I suggest that people call it the redneck rant rather than the round Alberta or whatever they call it. But I say I still got that, and I've got 2 children, both living up in the Edmonton area, and Linda, my wife, and we do a lot of traveling. I am a real estate agent. I guess I got that in common with Drew, and I still I dabble in commercial real estate a bit as well.
Thank you very much. Mr. Drew, what is the difference between the BC Conservative and the Wild Rose, being both of them conservative?
Well, there's lots of differences. I think probably the main one is the fiscal responsibility, the fiscal accountability that the Wild Rose is looking for. We're probably most concerned. We have a $3 billion deficit estimated again this year. The Wild Rose is a huge believer in balanced budgets, as an example. Main reason it prevents passing that future debt down to future generations, making it their responsibility instead of ours. I think also the current government is a believer in bigger government, less individual freedoms. They clearly showed this with their Law 36, what used to be called Bill 36, their land use framework, where they put in some draconian laws that can take away property rights. Again, our belief in the Wild Rose is decentralization, individual rights and freedoms, individual responsibility, and I think we practice that stronger than the PC party.
Yeah, that comes to my next question is, as a Wild Rose, Alberta has a deficit. How you think we can reduce the deficit at the same time keep Alberta development and growth the way it is?
Well, there's lots of things we can do. First of all, our recent media release from 3 or 4 days ago asked that the government stop executive bonuses and severance pay, or the bonuses rather, until the budget is balanced. There's been numerous at-risk pay, numerous bonuses paid. There's an example of a 5 or 6 year AHS employee who just got $900,000 in severance pay. We're asking all that to be reviewed, and we think there's huge savings there. We also think it's back to when the Redford government set the budget to start with in February. It wasn't a small C conservative budget where oil and gas royalties, where income tax and business taxation were estimated conservatively. They were estimated very high, And so it's no surprise that we are now in a situation where we have an estimated $3 billion deficit. On top of that, of course, the $16 billion that are in the Heritage Trust Fund are exactly the same amount that Peter Lougheed set this up with way back in 1976. We haven't added anything to it in that 35 odd years. And plus the Sustainability Fund, which was growing a lot from Klein's days in those heydays, they're down to only $3 billion from $17 billion in that Sustainability Fund. We think that a little more stewardship for our non-renewable resource money for future generations would have gone a long way for that. We also have looked at, we spend the most per capita on many, many things, from healthcare to infrastructure to our overall spending. We think there's lots of room for some huge savings. And maybe most concerning, our government is budgeting $2 billion approximately in unproven science like carbon capture. We would like to see more assured results before this budgeting is done, this money is spent. And those are areas that we differ with the PCs greatly.
Maybe, Ahmed, if I could just comment on that. What I'd like, and it's a personal comment, not a comment on behalf of the Wild Rose Party, I'd like to see a little more honesty in budget preparation. Drew alluded to that a bit. When they projected in February their deficit of just under $1 billion, they said things like oil, based on oil being $100 a barrel, gas being over $4 an MCF, knowing darn well, it was pre-election budget, of course, knowing darn well that they couldn't deliver. I mean, this morning I think oil was at $92, and it hasn't hit $100 for a couple of years. So the assumptions they're using almost guarantee massive deficits because they're overestimating their revenues to begin with, and that's not how a competent government manages affairs.
Yeah, but oil is unpredictable.
Absolutely, well, it is. It goes up and down, but you don't take, when oil is $90 a barrel, you don't estimate it at $100 a barrel, 2 months before the fiscal year begins.
Yeah, it's called wishful thinking.
Yes, but when you do that, yes, you're right. That's exactly what it is. But that wishful thinking almost guarantees massive deficits.
Yeah.
Because if you're estimating revenues beyond what's realistic, you're going to get a $3 billion deficit, and that's their estimate right now. It could be 4 by the time we're done if gas prices stay under $3 an MCF and oil doesn't break that $100 barrier.
The other one is the fact that education, which is Saskatchewan, is the age limit of the high school is 21. Alberta is 19, as you know, the age limit of the high school kid. Okay. This issue I brought also discussion with our current mayor, Alison Redford, when she was in Brooks. I invited her to Brooks. The fact that at the time she was running premiership, she promised that they will do everything that humanly possible, and she was the favor of raising the age, but it has to go through the proper channel. Why still are we lacking that similar as 21 years of age limit Saskatchewan has than Alberta?
That's beyond my knowledge level.
Yeah. Well, I know there was, I don't know about the exact ages, but I know there was some talk about raising the age for when young people had to stay in school.
Yeah.
I think it's been all the stakeholders haven't been engaged in that enough. I know it's important to hear what the people need and hear what the people want. Of course, education is crucial. It's really part of the health society, yeah, and how we improve our standard of living. But I think when the promises are made like that, we need to make sure the stakeholders are involved right from the start, through the process to the end, and I don't know that that's happened. I know in my constituency, Cypress-Medicine, there are a few groups that are maybe a little bit newer to our area and need some time to be involved in the process, and I would like to see that happen.
Thank you very much. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's going to be on the table this fall coming. And we hope that will be passed, and the age limit will be 21, so at least then young kids will take advantage from the 19 to 21. Because if you're coming from overseas, an immigrant person, you have a kid who is already 16, 17, after 2-3 years they have a language problem, they will be 19, so they will be having difficult to keep up the pace of the 19. They have to be out within that 19 years of age. So I think we hope that the issue will be passed. The health aspect of as you know, we had a shortage of medical doctors, especially Brooks some time back. How can we avoid that repetition again, having a medical doctor shortage in not only Brooks but other parts of Alberta, so the community will not suffer like what they did last time?
Yeah. Well, I think Medicine Hat is about 12 to 15 doctors short. Apparently there's about 25,000 Medicine Hatters and Cypress-Medicine Hatters without a family doctor, which causes huge hardship on the system. They end up going to emergency, there's end up waiting times, there's end up extra costs for the taxpayer. One of the big mistakes the PCs made under Klein was to reduce the number of spots in our medical schools for Albertans. I understand they have reopened that, and maybe we have to continue that to make sure that Albertans are trained to provide the quality of services we need. The Wild Rose, we had a plan to fast track or look at ways to help a lot of our foreign doctors or in their accreditation or match up with what our needs are. I think we have to pursue that a little bit more direct. I know we were also talking about making some partnerships with universities around the world that had similar standards to what Alberta standards are, where we could take some of their graduates. These are things that we have to start to work on. These are things that we have to, because training a doctor does take a little while, but there are things that we have to work on and put in process so we alleviate this problem as soon as possible.
I think also it's natural that young graduates or doctors in general will gravitate to the bigger cities, and rural areas have always struggled with getting doctors. So you'll be aware, Ahmed, in Brooks, the city took quite an initiative in trying to recruit them. As a matter of fact, in many municipalities, the municipality, the city, or the town provides financial and other incentives to doctors to come into their community, which I suppose is okay, and I don't blame the municipality for doing it, but it seems to me it's a little more of a provincial mandate to provide those sort of incentives, and those sort of incentives have to be there, whether financial incentives from the provincial government or we subsidize university students, including medical students, by millions of dollars a year. The fact that you might put some onus on, and again I'm talking individually here, onus on those doctors to serve some time in a rural area, I don't think would be a huge burden. Because it's something we've struggled with for decades.
Yeah.
It's also further concern with the new hospital in South Calgary, the South Calgary campus, that as they start to man that hospital, is that going to create some hardship for the rest of us around the province? Something I'm going to be watching very carefully.
Thank you very much. Quick one is XL pipe, as you know, from the south border. The Americans have the election last few days remaining for the election. What are the thoughts of the Wild Rose when it comes to that XL pipes, which can create a lot of jobs for Albertans?
Well, very much behind opening more markets through the XL, the Keystone Pipeline, the gateway to the West Coast. A lot of talk too about more pipelines to Eastern Canada. The more markets we have for our product, the better. The more opportunities here for Albertans. I understand that we sell some of our oil at 20 to 30% at a discount right now, and it's because the Americans and their captive buyers can hold us to that discount. If we can develop some more markets, it will absolutely add more value for Albertans, for our companies. It's unfortunate that the gateway pipeline to the West Coast is in this, stuck in this process where it seems like it's going to be hard to get that going. But certainly after the election in the United States, hopefully the Keystone, the XL will start to happen.
I just add Drew's comments. Drew's right, and like oil this morning was at West Texas Intermediate Crude, I think was trading at about $92 a barrel. The price that most producers get in Alberta is probably in the $65 to $70 a barrel because a lot of our oil is trapped. Not only is it trapped in North America, and that's what the Northern Gateway, but it's actually trapped within Canada and the northern states as well. The XL pipeline was meant to bring oil down, more oil down into the refineries on the Gulf Coast, Texas area. And it's really unfortunate that politics played a role here, because Obama's postponement of that pipeline was merely for political reasons to satisfy the environmental activists that obviously are a strong part of his campaign. And I find it ironic sometimes that we will say no, or the environmentalists, some of these environmentalists will say no to using Canadian oil, but they're happy to bring oil over from from the Far East, some of which is run by, as you know, by countries and groups that are associated with terrorists, And on top of that, they'll ignore the environmental aspects of shipping oil, but concentrate on the environmental aspects of pipelining something across land. I mean, there's a lot of inconsistencies in this argument. And the Northern Gateway pipeline, again, was with the intent there is to provide overseas markets for our product. And for example, European oil, and European oil sells, the Brent crude now sells, I think it's probably in the $110 to $115 barrel range compared to $90 in North America or $60, $65 that we're getting for our oil in Alberta because it's trapped, geographically trapped. Yeah.
Well, I hope after the election, the XL pipeline will see the light at the end of the tunnel.
I agree. Yeah.
And that will be beneficial both the Americans and the Canadians, especially Albertans.
Yes, absolutely.
As a business person also, Mr. Drew and Don, how can we attract employees or manpower to the province? And you know very well that employers cannot produce anything without manpower. And having manpower is the key for success for many businesses. How do you think we can attract more employees or manpower?
Well, there's a few things. Immigration is an example. The Wild Rose, we campaigned on wanting to take more provincial control over our immigration process so we could keep our fingers on the pulse of to where people are needed, what kind of trades are needed, what kind of skills are needed. We can obviously offer some training here with, you know, we have a very good college and university and trade school network. We can obviously offer some of that. I think a large part of it, though, starts with business in general. The PC government has had difficulty reducing rules and regulations around what's going on with business. According to Canadian Federation of Independent Business, we're one of only 3 provinces that have flunked the reduction of red tape 3 years in a row, coupled with Manitoba and Prince Edward Island. And sometimes the best business environment will attract the companies and the manpower that we need to be competitive in the global world.
We have, Drew's right, we have a lot of resources here and a lot of resources that we can take advantage of. One of the, I guess, problems, if you call it, one of the realities of life is as old Canadians or as traditional Canadians, we just don't have the birth rate to be able to provide the type of manpower we need. So we're going to continue to rely on immigration. The federal government over the years, or at least the last 5 or 6 years, has been very successful in terms of their temporary foreign workers program, which you're probably aware of, Ahmed, which has brought people not just for major projects like the oil sands. You can go into a Tim Hortons or a McDonald's or a convenience store and see, you can tell right away
different
because
faces.
The faces, they might be all Filipino or whatever. You can tell that that program is working, and you know, if the province takes more of an initiative in that way, so much the better. But we're going to have to, particularly in Alberta, rely on immigration to be able to capture our opportunities. It's just simple matter is there's not enough Indigenous people here to to exploit those opportunities.
Well, that will bring to the question of diversity. And it's human nature that immigration will be many years to come will be a method of Albertans to bring immigration, or Canada for that case, because of the senior and birth rate and all that reasons, all those factors. But still you have some old school guys that maybe sees as people are coming to take their culture away and all that. So how you can reconcile the old way of thinking and reality of 2012 diversity issue?
Lots of ways. A strong economy helps. If we have a strong, vibrant economy, people work together, people play together, people share together. I think that's really an important step. Technology, you know, we've been so dependent on oil and gas for so many years. Technology's been a really great way to pull people together, so hopefully that will continue. Culture, you know, one of the real refreshing things about the Wild Rose Party is a new party. We have not had much time to develop our cultural policy. Well, I hope and think you'll see that develop in a way that's inclusive for all Albertans, new and old, and that will go a long way to add quality of life for all of us.
I think you pointed out, Ahmed, to some of that resistance about allowing immigration in, and yes, it does exist, and change is hard on people, and change is something that all of us has embraced very slowly, and Brooks, I think, is a typical example of that. And that resentment to a lot of immigration. When Lakeside went from 650 employees to 2,500, whatever they've got today. But economic realities sometimes set in pretty quickly, and you'll recall the BSE crisis of 03 when Lakeside had to shut down or operate minimally, and all of a sudden that $110 million payroll started to affect businesses and employees in the city of Brooks, and it was sort of a wake-up call very quickly about if we want our economy to expand and we want to boom and have an vibrant economy, we're going to have to rely on immigration for a good part of that.
So education and awareness to both sides will be important.
And time too. You get a place like Brooks, for example, that goes from basically a Caucasian community to the type of community it is today very quickly. And as I said, change is hard on people, so often time looks after that. And, and you saw that, in Canada, you saw the immigration with the Japanese, for example, but a couple of generations later, it's not an issue anymore. Eh?
Yeah, because as our MLAs here as well, is the fact sometimes it's an ignorance. I had a gentleman who happened to be from mainstream Canadian in Brooks, and one of the things that we had a coffee, he mentioned, is all these immigrants coming to the area of Brooks and Alberta, they've been subsidized by the Ottawa, their employers. The employers will get paid 70% of the wages from Ottawa. So I'm thinking, and I said, are you smoking something or are you serious?
Yeah.
He says, no, I'm serious. I said, no, that's not true. Immigrants pay the same tax as you pay. And he disagreed. He says, no, the Ottawa government subsidizes the wage of an immigrant through the employer. So it's an ignorance from the person. And I challenged him and I said, don't take that from me, just go and do it. After 2 days, he came back to me and said, you were right. And I said, well, of course I was right. The fact that maybe someone told you that, or you need to research your own. Nobody pays anything to nobody. Employers pay tax, individuals pay tax. We pay tax as you do pay. I pay the same tax as you pay based on the bracket that you are in or how much money you make. That's based on brackets and reasons from the Revenue Canada. But I don't recall that government of Canada subsidizing any.
Well,
we all find what we're looking for at times.
Yeah. Well, good for you to clear that up and provide the information and the education. Yeah, sometimes that's it, that the information has to be out there and people, need it.
My question now is the press release that the Wild Rose released sometime back before the election, I believe, which was if they've been elected as the government party in Alberta, they will abolish the Alberta human rights, and that created a lot of confusion within the new Canadians. They were a little bit uncomfortable, and some of them, they said, why would the Wild Rose Party came up with this? So could you please clarify that? There was some confusion, so thank you for asking that. I really think our attempt was to make it better. We felt that the Human Rights Act was fine. It was just the commission. Okay.
That the bar to get involved was maybe too low in terms of there was no onus, on the person presenting the case, and there was a lot of hardship on the person, defending it potentially.
Yeah.
So what our decision was a parallel system of court. Okay, like small claims court,
okay,
where when these unfortunate instances arise, the plaintiff would present as the defendant would, okay, and possibly the judge could say, I'm sorry, Mr. Plaintiff, you're wrong, and we would look at a system where judges with a little more experience, a little more understanding of the law could make it better for everyone. So not to say that these situations don't happen, but that was our main mandate, was to make it better.
So to improve the situation?
To improve it, exactly.
Okay, to improve, not to abolish.
Not to abolish, to improve.
Okay.
Yeah, it did cause some controversy, and but one of the real strong things about the Wild Rose Party is we campaigned and we tried to be as open and transparent as possible. So we threw these things out there for all Albertans to discuss, and we are willing to do that at any time. And I hope that we continued our discussion of it, so all Albertans have protection.
I think for some of us, I think there was some talk about amending part of the human rights legislation in terms of free speech. They thought it was free restricted, but as Drew said, I think the issue was more around the commission itself and the powers that they had. They became a group. They have become a group unto themselves. That there's no recourse to the courts. They get to decide, and a lot of people felt it was almost what's called reverse onus, where in a court system you're generally considered innocent and proven guilty. This was felt almost the other way around. You had to prove your innocence, and there was a lot of concern about that power base that was developing amongst the commission. It wasn't the act itself that was the major issue.
Guilty. That is where we come from. Is dictators. That's what they use. You are guilty before you even. We thank you very much for both of you. We are very honored to have you, Mr. MLA, and we hope you will succeed your mission for many years to come. And we'll invite you next time. And Don, as I always, thank you very much.
No problem.
We thank you for your positive contribution to the society, and we hope you will continue, both of you.
Thank you, Ahmed.
For all of Bertanis.
Ahmed, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks.
Drew.
Don, thanks.
This is the final of our Global Village show today with our MLA in Medicine Hat, Cypress, Mr. Drew Barnes and Don Weisbeck. Until then, thank you very much for joining us, and we hope you will join us next time. Until then, God bless you and have a nice evening.